Has it met your expectations?
Yes.
Imekuwaje?
The State of the Nation presidential address today was a very, very brief but very expansive in terms of the content, and it was a very hopeful speech ever made by the president in his last 2.5 years in term in office. And the president touched on almost every facet of the Kenya's life. He has touched something on food security, and he has given a very positive indicator that actually our food security is improving. He talked about the sugar industry, where out of the 17 factories that we have in this country, all the 17 are now functioning and running, and the fact that we have 4 new factories which are coming up. The president talked about the state of our education, especially on the competency-based curriculum and the transition from the 844 to the new system, and the fact that we have had a lot of challenges, especially in the teaching staff. The president took over power when we had a gap of about 150,000 teachers, and in his last 2.5 years, the president told us they have recruited already 56,000 teachers, and now by January the government is planning to recruit another 20,000 teachers. So the gap would be decreasing. The president also talked about the fact that Kenya is a democracy, and the fact that Kenyans are free to picket, are free to demonstrate, and the fact that actually Kenya being a young growing democracy, he is also a listening president, and as a result of the listening that he has done to Kenyans, he said the controversial Adani program for the expansion of JKIA and the Ketraco power lines have been cancelled. And he received a lot of wild cheers after he said that from the entire House, because that is a program that has been very controversial, and the president said he has done what he has done because he has listened to Kenyans. And he said going forward he'll continue listening to Kenyans. The president talked about the progress in the housing program and the fact that the first 100 and something units that have been completed are now been floated for purchase by Kenyans, and he encouraged Kenyans that the process of, selling the units to Kenyans is going to be a fair, transparent, and every Kenyan should be free to apply and bid for any of the units. And the president also talked about the big issue about the disappearances of Kenyans. He talked about the fact that those who have been illegally made to disappear and those who have been illegally arrested, that the government through the IPOA, Independent Police Oversight Authority, is going to take action, do the necessary investigation, and all those officers who have been found to have done illegal arrests, then they will be dealt with. But he also talked about the fact that information flow, social media, and the way Kenyans receive information and pass information is a very good thing. It's a revolutionized the way Kenyans interact with each other, but it's also a very dangerous thing in this age and time when there is a lot of disinformation, misinformation, and the fact that people can be using the same platform to incite Kenyans. The president also talked about the fact that women should be given enough opportunity to participate in decision making, in governance in this country. He condemned the men who are actually using their masculinity to kill women, especially in the recently episodes of the femicide. The president condemned it heavily, and he said men should train their boys to become responsible men when they grow up in future. And that was a very, very hopeful and very promising speech. I would have wished the president to talk about perhaps the ravaging drought in some parts of this country. He talked at length about food security and the way food security has improved in this country. But I wish when he was talking about the food security, he would have talked a little bit about the livestock industry, because where I come from, livestock is the main economic lifestyle. And I would have wished to know how the livestock is doing in that part of the world.